this DEI stuff, it's like ensnaring everyone. I mean, consider Disney. Consider what just went down at Disney, everyone. Bob Iger, all proud, popping the champagne corks, because guess what? Nelson Peltz, I squashed you like a bug. Nelson wanted to actually get rid of some of this woke nonsense at Disney, and so he was trying to get a couple of spots on the board. It became like a full-on brutal campaign, and Disney spent a lot of money, and ultimately Disney won. And so now Bob's like doing this victory lap on CNBC this morning. I'm watching it, and he's trying to tell us that the stock is up because of all these great changes he's had. No, buddy. You know why the stock is up? I got to see what it's doing right now. The stock was up because Nelson was in the game, and Nelson was actually the wake-up call that company needed, so desperately needed. Let's take a look at Disney, and let's take a look at Bob trying to say, hey, high five, I did well.
Stock went up. The first time he had a proxy fight, the stock went up. Then it came down when Peltz went away. It went up again during this process. He seems to believe in part that he's helpful in terms of getting you guys to focus, and or there would be those who say, well, an activist is helpful in getting management to focus, and actually it has a good effect on the stock price. How do you react to that argument?
Well, first, let's talk about the stock price. The stock is up over 40% since the beginning of October. There was a slight bump when he announced his interest in basically the second proxy fight. And then actually the stock drifted down after that. And then it went up when we announced our November earnings.
Yeah, I mean,
he then mentioned a slate and named a slate. It drifted up slightly and then went down again. And then we had our February earnings, which were sensational, and it went up significantly. The market is reacting to how this company is performing. It was not reacting really to the activist fight.
Right.
Sorry, Bob, you're wrong. I know you want to be right, but you're just wrong. Because you know what? The stock's back down. It tanked like 3% and change yesterday, and now it's down 1.5%, $117 a share. It was down in the 80s, actually, before Nelson got involved. And if he's not there, by the way, he already made like $300 million, so I guess it was a win for him. He's trying to make sure that you focus. And yet here you are, saying a lot of people don't even really understand woke and blah, blah, blah. He won't really come out and actually deal with the elephant in the room, which is that his programming basically sucks and he has no actual sort of vision other than a whole bunch of sequels. You're not going to survive on sequels. You got to actually move to something else. But I digress. We want to talk about just exactly what went down, and who better to talk about it with than my very good, very dear friend, my co-founder at 76 Research, none other than Rob Horton, who, by the way, has been on both sides of some of these deals in the past, long, storied career on Wall Street. Rob, good to have you here. Thank you.
Hey, Trish, how are you?
So what's your take? What's your take here on Bob's sort of assessment of where his stock is now? What's your take on whether or not Nelson comes back? And also, I guess most importantly, like, how hard are these things for people like Nelson who come in and want to shake it up?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. It was a real uphill battle for Nelson to get on the board. It's like kind of like fighting City Hall. Iger, the entrenched management, the board, they've got all the corporate machinery working against you. So I kind of actually look at this as like a little bit of a victory for Peltz. He may have lost the battle, but he kind of won the war of ideas because Disney's been exposed. Their problems have been exposed. He's drawn attention to really the root causes of all their problems. So I think Peltz deserves a lot of credit, from the standpoint of Disney shareholders, but also like all investors, because, Disney's really just a microcosm of all the things that have really gone wrong in corporate America over the last 5 years.
Over the last 5 years, it's really kind of taken off. And I think about sort of how this got its start on the ESG front. You and I have talked about it in the past. By the way, the viewers haven't met you before. I talk about you a lot on the show. So everybody, hi to Rob. Rob, the viewers. Anyway, I've spoken about you, and one of the stories I tell is one of the reasons we started 76 Research was actually because you were saying, hey, this is crazy. Like the ESG requirements are so strict that, even I as a fund manager, I'm struggling to navigate all this because there's like some rule from somewhere that, you can't invest in such and such because, it's an energy company. And even if you so fundamentally believe in this particular energy company, because of this woke DEI, ESG stuff, everybody has to like solve for those things instead of just, I don't know, making money. And so how far off have we gotten? I mean, we've veered in some weird directions.
Yeah, I see ESG, like there's two major problems. There's a lot of problems with it. There's two major ones. The first is like the ideas that you're supposed to be promoting. I think you and I disagree with a lot of those ideas and the hysteria around carbon emissions and equity instead of equality and the rejection of merit. But it's really just the idea that these companies should be promoting any agenda or any ideology as opposed to doing what they should be focused on, which is the shareholder, creating shareholder value, building a strong business, profits for the investors. And I went to the Trian website last night. You can download the 132-page white paper on Disney. Maybe I'm alone in wanting to do that. But really some strong points made there. They really just took their eye off the ball and stopped focusing on the shareholder and made a series of mistakes. And in fact, the mistakes are even, 70% of the operating profit of Disney now is just that experiences business, their theme parks, the cruises, and the merchandise. And yet earnings over the 5-year period are down 50%.
Okay, I think I lost your audio there for a second. Keep going.
No, I was just saying, like, one of the things that they pointed out in that Trian pointed out, the content business and the sports business, the collapse was so severe that's what led to like a 50% decline in earnings, even though that theme park business has actually done really well, up 40% over the 5 years.
Well, I mean, look, I think that more of this needs to get exposed. I know that the guys over at Strive, that's Vivek Ramaswamy's company, Asset Management, they're trying to say, hey, we're only going to put our money into companies that really make sense. You think about what BlackRock's done. I mean, Larry Fink's backed away from a lot of it, right? Because, he was out there guns blazing a few years ago saying, hey, we need to do this. This is the right thing for America. It's the right thing for business. And you'll make money doing this. And it's like, really? I mean, like, it kind of sounds like a little bit of a scheme to me. Like, ooh, here's the popular kid. Let's all like put our goggles on and say how beautiful she or he is when, it's the emperor has no clothes, effectively, right? And so at the end of the day, like investors, they need to have some meat on the bones. They need to understand what the company is. They need to know it's going to perform. You think about CalPERS. I mean, this is the retirement fund for California employees. You would think that, California, liberal California, they're going to go with Iger on this one. And no, they were like in Peltz's camp. They're like, we're voting with Peltz because, hey, Disney, wake up.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, they have to realize they've got a fiduciary duty to shareholders. They're there to deliver for the shareholders and not to enact, political agendas from the EU or the UN or whoever else is really driving, these ESG policies. One of the things, Trish, that
the people need to retire someday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of being in business, right? It's not to enact the policies of foreign powers, really. But, one of the things I thought was really interesting that was emphasized in the Trian documents was they really pointed out that Disney has become this culture that stifles dissenting views. And like, that's like another aspect of ESG where, everyone's got to stick to the same script and the same talking points. And the people who get promoted are the people who stick to the script. And, when you're in a business like Disney, where it's all about creativity and independent thinking, that's when you start to see the culture decay and the quality of the product decline. And so it's like really these like these root problems that Peltz pointed out. So I think, he stuck his neck out and he deserves a lot of credit for calling attention to this. And hopefully others kind of continue to pile on and we start fixing some of these problems.
And recognize that. I totally agree. Listen, well, we're on it every day. I encourage everybody, I say this anyway, but I'll just say it again, go over to 76research.com. You will get a lot of information there from both Rob and myself. You know where we stand on these issues. All we want right now is for Americans to be the best position that they can be for their future. So 76research.com, sign up, get the free stuff, model portfolios there as well. We were talking earlier in the show about income building. We have an income builder portfolio and an inflation protected portfolio, some growth stuff as well. Rob, I'll talk to you later. We talk every day, guys. Rob Horton, thank you so much. My co-founder at 76research.com.